Hello and welcome to Stories of Resilience, our podcast series to promote an ACE-aware nation in Scotland. Adverse childhood experiences touch us all in one way or another. This series explores the thoughts of those involved with the ACEs movement in Scotland, and we talk to individuals who have stories of resilience to share. I'm Gary Robinson. My guest today is Karen Flynn. Karen is a manager within Kirkton Home Childcare based in the west of Scotland, and they aim to be attachment-led and trauma-informed right across their organisation. This is their story. Karen, welcome to the Stories of Resilience podcast. Thank you for your time. You're the area manager for Kirkton Home Childcare, I believe, in the west of Scotland. You've got 11 nurseries. And is it an organisation that continues to grow?
It is. It grows year on year.
And looking at my notes here, you aim to be absolutely attachment-led and trauma-informed. One of my jobs is to decipher some of the phrases and the words used for grassroots, for people like me, to be quite honest. But in terms of childcare, could you describe to me what attachment-led and trauma-informed behaviour looks like?
Yeah, certainly. We started probably 3 or 4 years ago on the journey, being more attachment-led rather than trauma-informed, because at that time we weren't informed through ACEs and trauma. But looking back at the story of Kirkton Home and where we started, I mean, I'll take you back to the start, where we first started looking at the attachment side of early learning and childcare, because we have children who could come as young as 6 weeks old to our care settings, and we kind of took a brush over the whole company and thought, are we doing the best for these children? Could we do better? And then we looked at it, we thought, no, we could. There's certain areas that we could do better, and that was nurture. So we thought, right, what does nurture look like? And it took us back to relationships, feelings, etc., between staff and children. So we looked at that in a lot of ways, and where we started at the time was the film Inside Out. Oh
yes, I know it well. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep, we had actually I had been to a meeting where Suzanne was present and had done a bit of a conference, and she'd spoke about the film Inside Out. So we looked at that, and obviously it's all about, the whole thing is about feelings and brain development, and thought, right, we could take that step further. So back then what we did was we hired out a cinema, and we took all our children, our kind of 3 to 5 year old age group for the whole company, to the cinema, bought them popcorn, and we watched Inside Out, and that was our first step to it.
And did it click with the staff? So the children would look at it as an animation film, and a very good animation film it is. But did the staff have a light bulb moment, and could they put 2 and 2 together, then understand what Dr. Suzanne Zeedijk was talking about?
Very much so. Very much so. It started to all make sense. It was like the early stages. They were starting to ask questions, and we thought, right, let's keep this going. So what we did was we bought all the characters for the dolls, we made displays, we had inside-out boxes within the playroom that the children could just take out a box and take out the character, and it was a cue for the staff to start discussing with the children how they were feeling. And it kind of opened up from there, but that was only one small part. So we obviously then realised that, right, this is growing, and we took a step back again. That continued in the sidelines. I mean, that was still all continued, but we looked at our settling in process for our children, because we then, I think through the years as well, more and more of our staff stay. Once they come to Kirkton Home, they generally stay. We have got staff who've worked with us for nearly 25 years. So a lot of us had started in Kirkton Home and not been parents, and then became parents ourselves. And then that gives you a whole different outlook as a professional, because without being disrespectful, you see it through new eyes when you're a parent yourself. Mm-hmm. So we started discussing all those kinds of things, what it looks like when staff are welcoming children in the morning and all this. So then what we did was we then decided to ask Suzanne, Dr. Suzanne Zedek, to come and do a day's training with her whole company, which she did, and we discussed some more in depth what relationships, nurture, attachment, connections, all these words, what they all meant, what they meant to us as practitioners and as professionals. And then again, came back to our services and talked. We did a lot of talking and a lot of soul searching and working out what we did now and could we do better. So we then, through the years, we describe ourselves as a family. Kirkton Home is a family. And you'll see all our hashtags. It's all hashtag Kirkbride, Kirk family, Kirk. And we all, although there's 220 staff, we all kind of work as a one. So we have worked very hard, encouraging the parents to become part of our family, which is working very well now. It took a wee while, but we've did all this through a lot of social media.
Right, okay.
We share a lot on social media, and we're building relations. We've always had good relationships with our parents, but they're getting stronger, and they seem to be sharing. Parents are sharing more with us because they've got a sense of belonging.
I was speaking to the police today and the NHS, and we were talking about how important the understanding of ACEs and becoming an ACE-aware nation is actually for our own staff and their own staff. How has the learning process for ACEs affected your 220 staff, Karen?
Well, when we talk about ACEs, we talk throughout the local authorities. We work under 6 local authorities, so majority of local authorities have been doing a lot of work also with ACEs. We have purchased the film ourselves, and all our management team have all saw it now, and a good part of our staff team. However, at present, we are talking to Odeon and Braehead, and we're going to have a whole staff evening again over the next few weeks to ensure every single member of our staff, and there'll be seats for parents also available to come along and view the film with us. The more people who are seeing it, the more eyes are being opened, and it does. There's been lots of light bulb moments recently with everyone that's seeing it. They can now relate it to their practice. So we can't fix everybody, and we know that. We know we can't fix everybody, but what we can do is continue with our nurture, our attachment, ensuring that our staff are connecting with the children. We've did lots of things since with changing our transition processes, talking about transition from maybe home into nursery, or from one playroom to another. We've stripped it right back, and we've looked at all our processes to get it right, to slow it down, and all to alleviate any trauma. And our staff understand that now. Our managers who are leading the services all thoroughly understand it now and what we're trying to do. We also have, at the beginning, it used to be we would say to parents or prospective parents, you could get a couple of settling sessions before your child starts. Looking back at that, because we are ACEs aware, we now have a stay and play that happens. So mum could be off on maternity leave, and mum could come and stay and play for 6 months if she wants, or granda, until it's time for mum to return to work. And then in that time, the hope is, and which is really happening because it's really successful, those children are very secure in their environment. They have built relationships with the new key person. The parent has built the relationship with the new key person. And by the time the parents are ready to leave their child and go to employment or college or wherever they're going, everyone's happy. And that child is stress-free.
There's a lot of talk at government level about ACEs currently, and long may that continue. And I was chatting, once again today with Gail Ross, the MSP, and she, with some of her colleagues, cross-party colleagues, seem to be leading the charge at Holyrood. Let's think about early years policy. What do we need to think about, and what does the government, in your view, needs to continue to think about in order to drive this through in an early years setting?
I think early years are heavily regulated. And I do agree that, it's a sector, of course it needs to be regulated to ensure quality for the children. But sometimes it can be top-heavy regulated, and the expectations of the staff and the practitioners is to have copious amounts of paperwork. So actually a lot of their time could be spent, if allowed, filling in forms. Whereas I think we need to loosen it right off, and we are trying to do that at the moment in Kirkton Home, and having a look at what's required and what actually is just a bit of paper for a bit of paper. Because the more paperwork that the practitioners have to do, the less time they have to spend on the floor just playing and connecting with the children.
It makes absolute sense. What's your motivation, Karen, in all this? What's the motivation in your work? Because you work so hard to disseminate this information. You're obviously an avid believer in it. Is there one single motivation that keeps you going and banging the drum?
I think it's split. It's my professional motivation I want the best for the children that we care for. As you can imagine, with 11 centres, we care for thousands of children throughout, over 1,000 children in our centres, and we want it to be the best possible experience for them. But also personally, of a son of 16-year-olds now who has come through early years from a young age, but also has come through some personal difficulties. Mm-hmm. I can personally see the effects of trauma on him, and if we could make a difference to these children at a very young age, then I want to be at the forefront of that.
Did you change your parent practicing, if you like, as you were bringing your son up, or because ACEs has been around in one form or another, from what I believe, for a while. It seems to be an understood language now, and once again, to use the phrase, hopefully that will continue. But once you started to understand and get into ACEs in a big way, in whatever it was called, did you change your parenting style?
I did. Rather than, I was honestly probably one of the parents saying, "You're okay." Do you know, like many people do, why are you crying? You're okay. Do you know, rather than stopping, taking the time and talk to me? And that's all children need. It's just for people to connect with them, talk to them, and listen to them and understand them. And I took that obviously, that was at home too. Recognition I did change, because the more knowledge you gain, the more you see that you're like, oh my goodness, I could have did that differently. So I question my own parental. Maybe some things I would have did differently, having known what I know now.
And from my point of view, I know that the interviewers are supposed to be very, very neutral, but this isn't a political conversation.
No.
But once I started to read about ACEs and understand it, and once again I refer to it as science, but it's not rocket science. I could identify with things that had gone in the past in my early years and childhood and to where I am today. Did you go on a similar journey, Karen? Did you have a light bulb moment? Yeah,
it actually scares you. I think when you first see the documentary, you actually think of your own. It takes you, doesn't. Well, I know that people that I've spoken to, me personally, it took me to my life rather than my life first before actually taking me down the professional route. That you sit there and you watch that documentary and you think, oh my goodness, that's why. And it is light bulb moments, and it does make you very aware, and it actually makes, it's like a jigsaw puzzle all fitting together.
And it seems to be, and this is my final question actually, Karen, because we're running short of time. We must do this again because we could record another podcast in a couple of months. But I know that you're embedding this really hard into the practice because I did read about an awards event that you held, which was a very glitzy glam affair, and it was for those for attachment led practice. Are you? Is there benefit in rewarding staff for adopting this?
Oh, definitely. Early years is a hard sector to work in because it moves at such a pace, and over the years it just changes. It goes like a roller coaster, and staff, bless them, they've embraced everything. They just embrace everything and keep going and keep going and keep going. And when it came to this, the kind of ACEs to nurture the attachment, they have wholeheartedly, 110% embraced it. And the differences we are seeing in our children. So we couldn't help but celebrate that fact because we're so proud of each and every one of them.
Quite right too. Well, Karen, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And are you heading for the conference in September?
Yeah.
Well, I will see you there. We'll have a cup of tea, and it's all very nice to chat via the phone, but it's even better to meet in person. So Karen Flynn from Kirkton Home Childcare. Every success, and here's to opening practice number 12 with a bit of luck, let's see, and moving on. Thank you so much, Karen. Take care.
Thank you.
That was Stories of Resilience, celebrating individuals and organisations who are helping to make Scotland an ACE-aware nation. Find out more about ACEs and the ACE Aware Conference this September in Glasgow at www.aceawarescotland.com.